My fiancé froze at the clerk's office when asked for his ID. That's when I learned his entire life was a lie. My name is Clara Whitmore. I'm 29 years old, and until the morning I walked into the county clerk's office to get a marriage license. I believed I was about to marry a man who had simply been private about certain parts of his life. I had no idea I was standing beside someone who had rewritten them. That's the part that still unsettles me most when I think back on it. Not even the lies themselves. It's the confidence I had before everything collapsed. That kind of quiet certainty you get when someone has been part of your daily life for so long that their presence feels normal, safe, almost permanent. If someone had asked me the day before whether I trusted Adrian, I would have answered yes without hesitation. That's what makes betrayal so disorienting. It doesn't just break your heart. It forces you to question your own judgment. Adrian and I had been together for 2 years. We met at a friend's backyard barbecue on one of those warm evenings where everyone says they'll stay for an hour and somehow it becomes midnight because nobody wants to be the first person to leave. He was easy to like. That's the simplest way to explain him. Funny without trying too hard. Charming in a way that didn't feel rehearsed. Confident, but not obnoxious about it. The kind of man who made direct eye contact when you spoke, like what you were saying genuinely mattered. He remembered details most people forget. The kind of coffee I drank, how much I hated being interrupted, even a song I once admitted I played whenever I was trying not to cry. 3 weeks after we met, he handed me a plain black coffee and said, "No hazelnut. I remember the hospital association." That kind of attentiveness gets under your skin. Not because it's extraordinary, because being remembered feels intimate. And intimacy makes trust grow fast. He told me he was 28. I was 27. It felt natural. Same general life stage. Same timeline. Same conversations about work stress, saving money, family expectations, and that weird moment in adulthood when everyone starts asking when you're getting married, like it's a subscription service you forgot to renew. Looking back, there were inconsistencies. Small ones. The kind that tug at your instincts for half a second before affection smooths them over. A college story with dates that didn't make sense. A friend using a different last name for him once. His mother making a strange comment one Thanksgiving before he redirected the conversation so quickly I barely had time to process it. But real life doesn't come with dramatic warning music. Suspicion usually doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives quietly, then gets explained away. And when you love someone, your first instinct is usually generosity, not interrogation. After 8 months, he moved into my apartment. It made sense. My lease was stable, my commute was better, and if I'm being honest, I liked the idea of building a life together in a space that already felt like home. He brought books, expensive jackets, framed prints he insisted were meaningful, and a coffee machine he described like it was a spiritual experience. 6 months ago, he proposed. He planned everything. My favorite restaurant, soft lighting, a table near the window, a ring that made my mother cry when she saw it. He got down on one knee with shaking hands and looked at me like I was the most important person in the room. I said yes before he finished asking. The waiter cried. I cried harder. Adrian laughed through tears and said, "You're stuck with me now." At the time, I thought it was romantic. Now that sentence lands differently. Funny how context can rewrite memory. The morning everything fell apart was painfully ordinary. Sunlight through the windshield. Traffic moving normally. Adrian humming along to some old song while tapping the steering wheel. I remember looking over at him and thinking, this is it. That strange quiet moment before a life changes. I thought we were driving toward the beginning of our marriage. I had no idea we were driving toward the end of our relationship. The county clerk's office looked exactly how county clerk's offices always look. Printer paper smell. Floor cleaner. A plastic fern in the corner. A jury duty poster peeling at the edge. An elderly couple behind us holding hands with the kind of unconscious comfort that only comes from decades together. I remember smiling at them. I remember thinking I wanted that. Then the clerk asked for our IDs. And Adrian froze. Not normal hesitation. Not forgot my wallet hesitation. His entire body locked. His hand hovered near his pocket like reaching for his wallet had suddenly become dangerous. "Babe?" I asked. He didn't answer. The clerk waited politely. The older couple behind us became suspiciously interested in pretending not to listen. Adrian swallowed, turned to me, and said quietly, "Clara, can we step aside?" That was the moment my stomach dropped. Not because I understood what was happening, because some part of me knew something was very wrong. We stepped beside the fake fern while the clerk shuffled papers with exaggerated professionalism. Adrian rubbed both hands over his face. Then he said, "I've been lying about my age." For one ridiculous second, my brain grabbed the smallest possible explanation. A year. 2 years. Something awkward but survivable. "Okay," I said slowly. "What does that mean?" He looked down. "I'm not 28. My throat tightened. "How old are you?" He closed his eyes before answering. 38. The room changed shape around me. 10 years. Not 1, not 2, 10. And the strange thing is, I didn't immediately feel heartbreak. I felt disorientation. Because suddenly, every birthday, every joke about us being the same age, every future conversation about timelines rearranged itself in my head. But even then, the age itself wasn't what hurt most. 38 isn't old. If he had told me he was 38 when we met, maybe I still would have dated him. Maybe not. But that choice should have been mine. Instead, he made it for me. That was the betrayal. And then I asked the question that actually mattered. What else? He went silent. Too long. Long enough for something cold to settle in my chest. Can we talk at home? He asked quietly. No. Clara. No. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. We are literally standing here to get a marriage license. If there's more, tell me now. He stared at the floor. And suddenly, all the strange little moments I had ignored came rushing back. Your college timeline never made sense, I said. His face changed. You said you graduated in 2018, but some of your stories placed you in college way earlier. Clara. And your friend called you by another last name at dinner? That was... Don't. He stopped. I kept going. Last Thanksgiving, your mother mentioned your first wedding. That landed hard. She wasn't confused, was she? Silence. That was my answer. And standing beside a fake office plant while strangers tried not to stare, I realized I was no longer discovering one lie. I was discovering a structure. Tell me everything. What came next didn't feel like one confession. It felt like watching pieces of a wall collapse. His legal last name wasn't the one I knew. There had been a real marriage, an ex-wife, debt from that relationship, credit card problems, a defaulted car loan, an unfinished degree, and even the hometown he told me about wasn't real. A carefully edited version of himself that he had let me fall in love with. By the time he finished, my hands were shaking so badly I had to press them against my sides. The clerk asked quietly, "Do you still want to proceed?" I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, because the question felt surreal. I looked at Adrian. For 2 years, I had loved a man who knew my fears, my family stories, my routines, my weak spots, my coffee order, and I realized I didn't even know his legal identity. No. Then I walked out. I barely remember the drive home. Shock does that. People think devastation is dramatic. Sometimes it's terrifyingly ordinary. Traffic lights still change. People still cross streets holding coffee. Someone in the next lane still sings with their windows down while your emotional reality quietly collapses. Adrian called 11 times, then 12. Then the text started. Please let me explain. You left before I could tell you everything. Clara, please answer. That last one almost made me laugh. Everything? As if there was some final explanation that would suddenly make deception feel reasonable. I parked outside my apartment and sat there gripping the steering wheel. And then the humiliation hit. That deep, ugly kind. Because heartbreak is painful. But humiliation? That's different. Humiliation is remembering. Every time you defended someone who was deceiving you. Every time you said, no, you just don't know him like I do. Only to realize you didn't know him either. I went upstairs, opened the door, and immediately hated how normal everything looked. His shoes by the door. His jacket over the dining chair. His stupid coffee mug in the sink. The life we built was sitting there exactly where we left it. That somehow made everything worse. Because familiar objects become emotional evidence after betrayal. I started packing. Quietly. No screaming. No dramatic throwing things. I wasn't interested in becoming the unstable ex in whatever version of events he would eventually tell people. So I folded shirts, boxed cables, stacked books, packed cologne, chargers, shaving cream. Every item felt like a receipt for a relationship built on edited truth. And memories kept hitting me. The trip where he joked about his credit cards being basically decorative. The dinner where his friend used another surname. That Thanksgiving phone call. All those moments that felt strange for half a second before trust softened them. By midnight, most of his life was in boxes. By 1 a.m, anger had become clarity. I texted him, "Your belongings will be boxed and outside by Friday. We're done." He replied almost instantly, "You're overreacting." Then, couples go through rough patches. I stared at the screen. A rough patch. That phrase felt insulting. A rough patch is stress. A rough patch is communication problems. A rough patch is arguing about money or family. A rough patch is not discovering your fiancé built your relationship on selective fiction. Then another message came. I lied because I was scared. Then, I love you. Then, please don't do this. That one hurt. Because if honesty had come with that sentence 2 years earlier, maybe this would have been a different story. But honesty didn't, and that mattered more than anything. That was the thought I couldn't stop returning to. Not the age. Never the age. The theft of choice. The theft of informed love. The theft of reality. Then the next morning, his mother called, and somehow things got worse. I almost let it go to voicemail. Not because I didn't know who it was, because I knew exactly who it was. Some names on your phone make your stomach tighten the second you see them. That was her. I picked up anyway. "Clara," she said, already sounding exhausted in the very specific way people do when they expect sympathy before accountability. "Please try to be understanding." I leaned against the kitchen counter and actually laughed. Not because anything was funny, because I genuinely didn't know what else to do with that sentence. Understanding? He was scared. There it was. The official family defense. Fear. As if fear automatically transforms deception into vulnerability. "As far as I know," I said carefully, "I was engaged to a man with a fake timeline, hidden debt, a secret marriage, and a different legal identity." "That's unfair." "Is it?" He wanted a fresh start. I looked around my kitchen at half-packed boxes and felt something inside me go very still. A fresh start doesn't require fictional biography details. "You're being harsh." "No," I said quietly. "I'm being accurate." She sighed. Then came the line that made my entire body tense. "You made a commitment." That sentence carried more than the words themselves, because what I heard underneath it was something much uglier. That once a woman has emotionally committed, she is somehow obligated to keep absorbing damage. That loyalty should outlast honesty. That endurance is virtue. I stood up straighter. I committed to the person I thought existed. Silence. Then colder. "People have pasts, Clara." "Yes," I said. "Healthy adults disclose them." She hung up. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. That afternoon, I contacted building management and removed his access. So when he showed up 2 days later, acting shocked, I had no sympathy left. 2 days later, Adrian showed up, hard knocking, sharp enough to make me jump. I looked through the peephole, and there he was. Wrinkled shirt, red eyes, hair like he had been running both hands through it for hours. And I hate admitting this, but for one stupid second, my heart reacted. That's the ugly part no one likes talking about. Love doesn't vanish the second truth appears. You can know someone hurt you and still miss them in the exact same moment. That contradiction feels humiliating. I opened the door halfway. He immediately tried to step forward. "No." "Clara, please." "No." He stared at me. "I can't believe you changed the locks." I actually laughed. Not kindly. "That's what shocks you?" "This was my home too." "No," I said evenly. "It was the place you lived while lying to me." His face hardened. And there it was. The shift. The moment some people make when apologies stop working and guilt becomes plan B. "You're being cruel." I stared at him. "I'm being cruel?" I made mistakes. That word again. Mistakes. As if this had been a scheduling issue. As if he forgot dry cleaning instead of fabricating major parts of his life. "Missing a dentist appointment is a mistake," I said. "Clara, buying the wrong birthday gift is a mistake. Please, building a relationship on edited truth is not a mistake." His jaw tightened. Then he said the sentence that permanently changed how I saw him. "I only lied because I thought you wouldn't want me." That sentence sounds heartbreaking if you hear it quickly. It sounds vulnerable. But when you actually sit with it, it becomes something else. Because hidden inside that sentence is entitlement. He decided what truth I deserved. He decided what choices I got to make. That isn't insecurity. That's control wearing insecurity's face. "And the debt?" I asked. "We could have handled that together." Together. That word almost offended me. As if partnership still existed. As if trust hadn't just been ripped out by the roots. There is no together. For the first time, I think reality actually hit him. Not emotionally. Practically. Like he was finally understanding this might actually be over. Not argument over. Not temporary over. Actually over. He looked at me and asked quietly, "Was any of it real to you?" That question almost broke me. Because yes, that was the tragedy. It had all been real to me. The Sunday mornings. The shared routines. The stupid inside jokes. The trips. The future. My love was real. That's what made this so painful. "Yes," I said softly. "Then how can you do this?" Because loving someone and being safe with them are not the same thing. That truth landed in me so clearly I surprised myself. Because love is not enough. He stared at me. And for once, he had no immediate answer. I closed the door. The next few days were worse in a different way. Not privately. Publicly. The first text came from Melissa. Weird question. "Did you really end the engagement because of the age thing?" I stared at the screen. Then another from Ben. Then another from Sophie. Then 2 more from mutual friends. My stomach dropped. I called Melissa immediately. "Who told you that?" Pause. "Adrian." "Of course." "What exactly did he say?" "That you found out he was older than you thought and freaked out." I sat down. Because there it was. The rewritten version. The cleaner version. The socially sympathetic version. In his version, I was shallow. In reality, I had discovered I was about to marry someone who had curated his identity. Guess which story sounds easier to tell over drinks? I explained everything. The name. The marriage. The debt. The degree. The fake history. Melissa went silent. Then, that kind of, the kind people say when their entire understanding just changed. By evening, Sophie came over. She walked in holding takeout and immediately hugged me. No questions. Just held me. And I nearly cried right there. Because betrayal does strange things to your nervous system. Even kindness can feel overwhelming when trust has been destabilized. We sat in my kitchen, picked at food neither of us really tasted. Then she asked, "Do you think he believes his own version?" That question stayed with me. Because honestly, I didn't know. Some people lie strategically. Others lie so often the fiction becomes emotionally true to them. If they feel hurt, they become the victim. If they feel abandoned, your boundaries become cruelty. Maybe he had told that story to himself so many times that even he believed it. He probably wasn't some mastermind, just someone so focused on his own feelings that everyone else's reality became secondary. Then Adrian showed up again. No warning, no invitation, just knocking. I opened the door because I was tired of anticipating him. This time he looked calmer. And honestly, that scared me more. Desperation is obvious. Desperate people are easy to read. Calm, entitled people are harder. Can we talk? We already have. Like adults. I folded my arms. That opportunity passed. You're making me sound like a criminal. That sentence told me everything. Not I hurt you. Not I understand why you're devastated. Number. You're making me look bad. That distinction matters. I'm describing what happened. It started small. I actually laughed. Because of course it did. That's how most disasters start. Nobody wakes up planning to become the villain in someone else's story. One lie becomes two because telling the truth gets harder. Then eventually the lie stops protecting your feelings and starts protecting your consequences. But pain does not excuse collateral damage. I can understand your pain, I said quietly. That doesn't mean I volunteer to become part of it. That landed. Then he pivoted. If I looked hard enough, I'd find flaws in you too. I nodded. Absolutely. He blinked. That wasn't what he expected. I have flaws, I said. I just didn't hide them behind a fake biography. Silence. That night, after he finally left, I sat in the dark for a long time, and one uncomfortable thought kept circling. What hurts most isn't always the lie itself. Sometimes it's realizing how much emotional energy you spent protecting someone who never protected your reality in return. Then things got worse. Because Adrian found Sophie, and that changed everything. Sophie called me crying. The second I heard her voice, my stomach dropped. Because there's a specific tone people have when something is genuinely wrong. And once you hear it, your body recognizes it before your mind does. What happened? It's Adrian. I stood up immediately. What about him? He asked to meet me. Every muscle in my body tightened. What? Her voice shook. He said it was important. Sophie. I didn't know. No, I said, trying to stay calm. Tell me exactly what happened. Silence. Then, he said I needed to convince you to talk to him because there might be a baby. I went completely still. What? He thinks you might be pregnant. For a second, I genuinely thought I had misheard her. Not because the accusation made sense. Because it was so shameless. We hadn't even been intimate in weeks, I said immediately. And he knows that. Sophie sounded miserable. I didn't know. I know. No, Clara, I should have... You should have done nothing differently. He manipulated you. That's the thing about manipulative people. If they only fooled careless people, they wouldn't be effective. What makes them dangerous is how believable they can sound when emotion becomes their tool. I hung up and called Adrian immediately. He answered on the second ring. Clara, did you tell my sister I might be pregnant? Pause. Not confusion. Not surprise. Pause. I said it was possible. That sentence made my entire body go cold. It is not possible. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Silence. Then he lowered his voice. I just needed you to talk to me. And there it was. No misunderstanding. No emotional confusion. Strategy. He used my sister as leverage. That was the moment something inside me changed permanently. Because heartbreak still leaves room for grief. Disgust doesn't. You involved my family. I was desperate. No, I said quietly. You were manipulative. That's unfair. I laughed. A short, bitter sound. Do you hear yourself? Then I hung up. And for the first time since this started, I didn't feel sad. I felt done. That week, I met with a lawyer. Not because I wanted revenge. That's the lazy story people tell whenever a woman starts protecting herself. Number. I wanted clarity. Because uncertainty becomes its own kind of emotional violence after betrayal. You start asking strange questions. Did he ever use my address somewhere? Did he open anything in my name? Was any paperwork tied to me? What else don't I know? The lawyer's office was smaller than I expected. Warm lighting. A bowl of mints nobody actually eats. Framed degrees. A woman named Karen with the kind of face that suggested very little surprised her anymore. I explained everything. She listened without interrupting, then adjusted her glasses and said, Well, that's certainly memorable. I actually laughed. That felt weirdly healing. She walked me through everything. Because we were never legally married, because the apartment was solely mine, because we never combined finances, my exposure was limited. Then she asked, "Did you co-sign anything?" "No." "Shared credit cards?" "No." "Loans?" "No." She nodded. Good. That single word hit harder than I expected, because suddenly I understood how much worse this could have been. When you're in love, you don't always ask the practical questions you should. Karen advised me to pull my credit report anyway. I did. Clean. No hidden accounts. No financial surprises. I sat in my car afterward and cried. Not because something terrible happened, because something worse didn't. Relief can break you open just as quickly as grief. Then came the engagement ring. I hated dealing with that. Not because of the money, because of what it represented. That ring wasn't jewelry. It was hope. Karen explained the legal reality. Conditional gift. No marriage. No condition fulfilled. Ring returns. Simple. Except emotionally, nothing about this felt simple. We sent a formal demand. Adrian refused. Predictably. Apparently consequences felt offensive to him. Then his mother escalated. She called my mother. That still amazes me. These women had met maybe 3 times, and yet somehow she felt entitled to recruit my family into this. My mother called me afterward, sounding calm in the terrifying way mothers get when they're furious. She said you were ruining his life. I stared at the wall. Of course she did. She said he just wanted a fresh start. She said love means forgiveness. I rubbed my forehead. And what did you say? Pause. Then my mother said, I told her love without honesty is performance. I actually smiled. That's brutal. I'm a mother, she said, not dead. Then softer. Are you okay? That nearly undid me. Because strong people get asked that less than they should. Not because they need it less. Because they hide it better. Some days. That sounds honest. It is. Good. Then she added, stay there. That sentence stayed with me. Stay there. In honesty. Not comfort. Not denial. Then Adrian started showing up places. My coffee shop, near my office, outside the pharmacy, always pretending coincidence. Fancy seeing you here. As if statistics had stopped existing. The first time, I ignored it. The second, I left. The third time, I looked him dead in the eye and said, this is your warning. If you show up near my home or work again, I document it and take it further. He looked offended. I'm not following you. Then you have extraordinary commitment to impossible coincidence. That ended that conversation. The court date came. He didn't show. Not even remotely. Karen looked mildly amused. The judge reviewed the paperwork, reviewed the documentation, ruled by default. Full judgment. Done. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I mostly felt tired, because closure is rarely as emotionally dramatic as people imagine. Real consequences are often boring. Forms, deadlines, signatures, quiet systems doing exactly what they're designed to do. Later that evening, Adrian texted, you seriously took me to court over a ring? That wording fascinated me. As though the ring itself was the issue, not the deception underneath it. I replied once. The ring is not the headline. No response. Then my mother called. His mother paid. I blinked. What? The judgment. Apparently Adrian couldn't. So his mother covered it. That explained more than she probably realized. Some people spend years avoiding consequences because someone else keeps absorbing them. Around that same time, mutual friends started comparing notes. That was when things really unraveled. Melissa called first. So, weird question. I laughed despite myself. That phrase now terrifies me. Did Adrian tell you he went to Stanford? I blinked. What? Because Josh swears he said Stanford. I sat up straighter. He told me Northwestern. Silence. Then another friend. He said he grew up in Seattle. He told me Boston. And suddenly the whole thing got bigger. Because now it wasn't just my relationship. It was pattern behavior. Different stories for different audiences. He seemed to become a different version of himself depending on who he was talking to. That realization was disturbing in a completely new way. Because it forced me to ask something I didn't want to ask. Who exactly had I been dating? Weeks later, while cleaning out a hallway closet, I found one last forgotten box. Old cables, books, random receipts, and a black notebook. I opened it. I wish I could tell you I didn't. But curiosity is human. Inside was a journal. Not polished entries. Just fragments. Scattered thoughts. Debt panic. Divorce shame. Fear. And then entries about me. How terrified he was I'd leave if I knew the truth. How he planned to tell me after the right moment. Then after the next right moment. Then later. And somewhere in there, the lie stopped being temporary and became infrastructure. One line stopped me cold. She looks at me like I'm still worth something. I read it 3 times. Because suddenly this got sadder. Not better. Not forgivable. Just sadder. Another. If she knows everything, she'll leave. And later. I waited too long. Now telling the truth destroys everything. I sat on my bedroom floor crying. Not because I wanted him back, because grief is more complicated than that. I cried for the version of us that might have existed if honesty had arrived sooner. For the imagined future. I cried for all the ordinary things I had already built in my head, the vacations we talked about, the children's names we joked about, the furniture we almost bought, even the wedding playlist still sitting in my drafts. People underestimate grief for futures that never happened. That grief is real. Emotional investment doesn't become fake just because the outcome disappears. Eventually, I packed the notebook away, mailed the final box to his mother. No note, nothing left to explain. I started therapy. Because betrayal changes your nervous system. You second-guess your instincts. Replay conversations. Distrust your own judgment. That deserves care. My therapist asked me, "Do you think Adrian loved you?" I expected an immediate no. Instead, I hesitated. Then said, "Yes, I think he did. In the only way he knew how. Fearfully. Perfectly. Selfishly. But love alone was never enough to build a safe life. That was the lesson. People can love you and still be profoundly unsafe to build a life with. Do I regret loving him? My love was honest. That matters. Do I regret leaving? Not once. I'm okay now. Not perfectly. Not magically healed. Some mornings still feel heavier than others. Sometimes memory shows up before logic does. That's grief. But I'm okay. I'm not the same person I was before this, and maybe that's okay. Healing doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It just means learning how to move forward without letting what happened turn you into someone colder.